Topman Bergamot. Yes, Topman Bergamot. Oh, you smell familiar. So yes, good afternoon. So you would have seen yesterday I did a fitness review of a Topman fragrance, yes, Topman Sport, which I thought smelled a little bit like Dolce & Gabbana Light Blue Pour On Eau de Toilette. Very good phrase, very well-known phrase that came out in 2007, I believe. Today we're looking at this one, Topman Bergamot. Now, my brother got these on eBay literally about a week ago, essentially, and I was blown away straight away with how nice they smell. And this one really irritated me because I went on Google. I thought, I know that scent. I recognise that scent DNA. What is it? And there was nothing online that could tell me what it was a clone of. There was no breakdown. There was absolutely nothing at all. And then the other day we sprayed it again, and it instantly came to me. This is a clone of a very well-known Bvlgari fragrance, Bvlgari Man in Black, a lovely spicy scent. If you really like those sort of spicy fragrances, warm spicy fragrances, this is fantastic. This is really good, and I have to say, I can't wait to wear it and do a full review during my walk this afternoon of this one as well. Again, Topman didn't really know much about them as certainly not in fragrances. I know they do clothing and all sorts of things like Zara. Didn't realise they did fragrances, and it looks like, just from my impression of this one, and obviously the other one I did yesterday, they do seem to be cloning popular, well-known scents, but not many from where I've, tried Zara and Next. I never found a Bvlgari Man in Black one, but this is all about the spice rather than the bergamot, in my opinion. It's really interesting. So if you haven't seen my reviews before, essentially I'm just going to go for a walk this afternoon. I'm going to rank the fragrance on 5 categories. We're going to look at its price, value for money, its versatility, how much you can use it in different situations. We'll look at its projections, how much I'm noticing it during my walk. So yeah, how loud is it essentially? If someone was walking by, would they notice it? We'll also look at its compliment factor. Do I think people are saying nice things about it? And its longevity. So as we get nearer to the end of the walk, essentially just see how strong it is. Is it still going to last after 1 to 2 hours? So yeah, I haven't really managed to find a note breakdown. Normally I do. Obviously, bergamot's the big thing here, but I think there's certainly some spice, but there's definitely spices in this. And if you know the scent DNA of Bvlgari Man in Black, this is exactly that. Gold Digger Spice was another fragrance that I had before, had the similar scent DNA. So what we're going to do though, I'm not going to go into that. If you know that scent, it's brilliant. This is one to definitely recommend. So we're just going to go straight into it today. Going to head out now from a walk, and we'll do all the categories during that. So yeah, we'll start with price value for money. See you out there. We are off. Apologies, it is very windy out here, but the sun is still shining, so let's hope we beat the rain. But we are talking about Topman Bergamot. So yeah, another one of these fragrances that's essentially a clone Bvlgari Man in Black. Now, price value for money, like the other one, like Topman Sport, it looks like the only sort of shop you can get it on, or website you can get it on, is the fragrance shop, and otherwise you're kind of looking on eBay and Amazon. And on Amazon they're charging up to £30 for this one. Yes, £30, whereas on the fragrance shop it's as cheap as sort of £5 to £6. And then yeah, eBay's kind of got everything in between around that sort of £15 mark. But I'd probably say the general price you're going to see this for over the next month, 2 months, is going to be around that £10 to £15 range. Now, do I think that's good value for money? I said yesterday for Topman Sport, if I've paid £5 for that one before and then I'm suddenly paying 15, I probably would be put off it a little bit because they discontinue these fragrances quite quickly. With this one, I'm actually going to make a bit of an exception because this smells so similar to the original Bvlgari Man in Black. And what I like is it doesn't smell really harsh, it doesn't smell really synthetic, the scent quality feels good, the blend feels good, and I honestly wouldn't know any difference if you put them next to each other. Now, where it may eventually mark itself down, and we'll only know later on this wall, is potentially the longevity. I don't think the longevity is maybe going to be as good as the original one, but that being said, even if you ended up paying top price, that £30 which you can get it for on Amazon, I still think it's worth it when you're comparing to other scents in that sort of price range. It is Bentley, and of course Bentley is the top of that for me. Bentley for Men Intense really is a fantastic fragrance, but even like a Davidoff Cool Water or Cool Water Intense, this is better than them. This is definitely better than them. And when I smelled it the other day, my brother sprayed it on me to try and work out what it was. It was one of them where I couldn't stop smelling it just because it was so nice, and of course it was intriguing me of what is that? I know that smell, and obviously I was glad to eventually work out what it was. So it's punching well above its weight in my opinion, even if you ended up having to pay that price range. And obviously I gave Topman Sport a 9 out of 10 yesterday, because I thought, you know, if I ended up having to pay a bit more, I probably would feel a bit ripped off. With this one, I definitely wouldn't, and for that reason, I'm going to give price / value for money a 10 out of 10. It's so good, and it's really nice at the minute. I'm really enjoying it on my walk. Okay, so moving on to versatility. How much can you dress this one up, dress this one down? Different ages, different occasions, different seasons, all those things. Well, when you think of the original, obviously, Bvlgari Man in Black, for me it's a date night. It's a sort of modern James Bond type scent, seductive, alluring. It's not something that you probably want to wear on a high heat summer's day. Where this one, and obviously we haven't got on to longevity and projection yet, where this one may be a bit more wearable is because it isn't as strong. Do I still think it's suited mainly to a workout? No, Topman Sport, one we reviewed yesterday, definitely is more suited to those occasions. So if I'm putting my sort of stereotypical hat on, where do I think this is going to work best? Definitely fall winter time, definitely, again, more date night, or, you know, night awards evenings or anything like that. Climate controlled office environments could certainly be your signature scent. Males 20 to 40 years old, I still think it's a little bit more youthful. It's where it's ever so slightly more synthetic. I think it's going to be more suited to those young people who want to sort of dip into those more full winter scents. Where I'm going to say it gets marked down is, do I think this one could do it all? Do I think I'd really want to have this one as my summer holiday vacation fragrance? No. Is it one that I think is going to really stand out in a clubbing environment? No. Is it a signature scent? Yes, but I still think I want something fresh to complement this. And that's, look, at the end of the day, what it's really meant to be is a copy of a very popular fragrance, and it definitely does that. And that one, again, I'd be saying exactly the same things for the original Bvlgari. So for that reason, I'm going to give it 7.5. 7.5 out of 10. Again, brilliant for what it's meant to be used for. One of the best fragrances, I think, one of the best modern releases anyway. And this has really copied it well, but I still want something else fresher to complement it, just so you don't get bored of it as much as anything, because I think this has got enough statement potential where you wear it more for those special occasions rather than just every day. Okay, so moving on to projection for Topman's Bergamot. How much am I actually noticing it during my walk at the moment? Well, I sprayed a little bit on my hand, obviously I sprayed around my chest area on my shirt as well, and I've certainly detected it about 4 or 5 times in the last half an hour. There's no two ways about it. And what I'd say is it's never too much to the point it's really cloying. It's never really loud. And when I compare that to the original Bvlgari Man in Black, that one isn't particularly loud either. I feel like it's one where if someone's in your scent bubble, say 2 metres away or sitting next to you at a desk, it's quite easy to detect. If my brother was sitting in a room sprayed 5-10 times this fragrance, I'd certainly notice he's got it on. But if he was moving from room to room, it doesn't have maybe those really sweet notes like vanilla and caramel that I find leave more of a trail. They're more of a room filler type scent. This one, I think you have to almost be in the room for a period of time for it to kind of fill up the room a bit more. And yeah, ultimately it sits a little bit closer to the skin. But that's no sort of, I'm glad it doesn't have vanilla and caramel nuances in, because this one is great. And I quite like the fact it's slightly more tame on the spices. That's why I think I like the original Bvlgari Man in Black. It's not really aggressive spice. My nose is quite sensitive to spice, and it's sort of a little bit of hit and miss for me. I like cinnamon in fragrances, but it can be overdone to the point I really don't enjoy it. And this one, it's not like that at all. Maybe that's the bergamot that's just freshened it up a little bit, but what it's made is a quite easy to wear fragrance, even inside the house. It's not too loud, it's not going to choke yourself out or anyone else too much, and ultimately it's just made a very nice pleasant scent, and one that I'm really enjoying on my walk. Again, if someone was walking by me right now with the breeze, I don't think they're going to particularly pick it up, but it might just draw someone in. If someone just catch it, they'll go, "Oh, where's that coming from?" You're not being loud or obnoxious, you're actually being more alluring than that. So the projection, I think, is bang on. And this one, compared to the original, I think it's pretty much the same on projection. For what you're paying, that's not bad. So I'm going to give the score for projection here 8 out of 10. Look, it's just not as loud a fragrance as some of the others, as we touched upon earlier. It's not a strong vanilla caramel scent or a strong boozy scent, but for what it is and what it's meant to be copying, it's just as good. So that's why it still does get a high score overall, 8 out of 10 for projection. then, so on to compliment factor for Topman Bergamot. Do I think this is a compliment getting sent? Well, let's look at the points for with this one. First of all, of course, it is cloning a very popular fragrance, and that is a fragrance that's had many compliments for a lot of people, Bvlgari Man in Black. So yes, in that sense, of course it does, otherwise it wouldn't be replicating that scent DNA if it was something that was very unpopular. The other thing I can say, of course, my brother literally only just got it, so he hasn't got any experience of compliments of this. But obviously when I smelled it the other day, I kind of asked myself the question, or would I mention that? If he walked by me and he had that on and I'd never smelled it before, would I stop and go, oh, that smells nice, what is that? 100% I would with this. There's no two ways about it. It is very nice. It's not one of those scents that's particularly worn that much anymore, Bvlgari Man in Black. You know, when you think of how much the blue fragrances have taken over, you don't smell many people wearing Bvlgari Man in Black. Ask yourself that question. If you know that phrase, how many people do you ever smell wearing it? Very rarely, very, very rarely. I think where it would only get marked down on this one for me is the fact it's not that loud. And again, as I was saying earlier, the original isn't that loud either. So where this one may just essentially not get you compliments, not its uniqueness, not how nice it smells, you know, anything like that, it's probably more a case of, would people notice it? Is it strong enough to really cut through a crowd? So you kind of have to wear it in the right situations. And as we said earlier, there's certain times of the year, like at the moment when it's quite sunny, quite hot, where you wouldn't want to wear it as much. So you may have a slightly smaller pool size to get those compliments. But I do think if you do get compliments on this one, if you wear it in the office environment where it's, you know, not too hot, it's climate controlled, people will say good things. And for that reason, I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. Okay, so it's been about an hour and a half, so not too long since I applied this fragrance, but I think it's a good time to test for longevity, particularly on my arm or my hand where I sprayed it earlier. So let's see what we can detect. Well, it's definitely still there, and I'll be honest, obviously, that's half the time I'd normally give for longevity. Normally when I do my sort of runs and my walk to the gym, it's about 3 hours before I test for longevity. It's probably about 50% as strong as when I applied it an hour and a half ago, so it's not really loud. It's probably what you'd expect for what you're paying for. I think you can clearly tell, as much as the blend smells very nice and, you know, it doesn't smell too harsh or synthetic, you can tell it's not maybe the highest quality oils because it hasn't got maybe that same staying power as even the original, which isn't particularly loud in its own right. It's like I said yesterday with Topman Sport, it's probably the weakest round of the lot because you know, the other things are just so good. Honestly, the blend and the quality of it overall smells great. It really does. I barely detect a difference from the original. But if you want it to replace that scent, I think you're going to want to buy 2 of these. I think you're going to want to have one at home and one in your bag just to get you through the day if that's what you're wearing it for. If you're wearing it for, again, a night out, it's just going to be too quiet after an hour. You almost may not notice it on yourself, particularly if you're getting hot and bothered. But I think the question I'd ask myself, would I sacrifice a bit of longevity for how well this smells, how similar this smells to the original? Yes, I would, but it's definitely the weakest part of this fragrance, and for that reason I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10. I think it would be gone in 3-4 hours, and I'd want to reapply. Well, the weather has certainly changed. As you can tell, the wind has picked up going in this direction, but it's time now to count up all the scores. So what was the total score for Topman Bergamot based on the 5 categories we looked at? It's creeped into the 40s. It's got bang on 40 out of 50. And what was quite interesting, prior to that last round, both Topman Sport and Topman Bergamot literally had the same score. They had 34 out of 50, but Topman Bergamot has just got that extra point for longevity. And I think you'd probably expect that because this one is more suited to those full winter time, whereas Topman Sport is more suited to those high heat situations, athletic summer, more casual scenarios, where those fragrances do tend to be a little bit lighter and not as heavy. What I would say though overall with either of them, you get both. You know, if you bought one, the other one certainly isn't redundant. One could be your day fragrance, one could be your night fragrance, and as long as the fragrance shop is still selling them for this sort of £5-6, you're getting a bargain. You are getting a bargain on both. I've been blown away by those 2 fragrances that my brother's got. Again, he's bought some clones recently of Versace Eros, of Packer about 1 million of Dior Sauvage. these are just as good, and these are so good that I wouldn't even buy like the Essence one, which is a popular clone house where I do tend to get clones of more expensive scents. I'd quite happily buy these fragrances rather than the original, because again, they'll serve a purpose for what I want, whether that's just putting it in my gym bag or whether this is just a casual, everyday office type scent. They are brilliant, and the blend on them, look, as I said, they're not really natural scents, but the blend is very good, that they're not harsh, they're not aggressive, they're not in your face, and they do smell exactly how I want them to smell. You know, as I said, would I be prepared to sacrifice that little bit of extra projection and longevity for the quality and how similar they smell to the original? Yes, I would, and this one really is fantastic. I probably think if it wasn't, obviously I'm trying to give a balanced opinion, I think if this was me personally and I was just ranking it based on my own opinions of this is in the top 5 cheap under £10 fragrances. If you can get this for under £10, I really think it's that good, and I quite like a cheapie. I like a cheapie scent, and this is definitely up there, and I'd be very surprised if I don't add this one to my collection at some point. But of course, as we said earlier, sometimes you just got to be aware these clothing brands that do fragrances, they're not a priority for them. They tend to just be an impulse buy at the front of the tills, obviously after you've bought all your clothes and other bits that you've gone actually in there for. So you might have to get it quicker than I think. And yeah, if you're somebody who likes Bvlgari Man in Black, please check this one out, because it is absolutely fantastic. I hope I've got that message across today. But I hope you enjoyed this one. Apologies for the wind, it is so strong, so I'm going to sign off now before I get soaked as well. But yeah, a very enjoyable fragrance for the walk today. Thanks for watching, catch you later.